the good news is nobody got injured during the international break, which is magnificent, really, when you consider we had loads of people, loads of internationals at West Ham these days. Basically, it's tumbleweed going all the way through the training ground every time there's international breaks. And as Gio mentioned on yesterday's video, there's another one in October and there's another one in November. I like a bit of international football, but come on, I do prefer the hustle and bustle of the Premier League. Anyway, don't worry about that. There is one player who is back, by the way, and that is Arthur Masuaku. Now, I think that's really, really important. Really important for West Ham, really important for David Moyes, and I don't think he'll start. And actually, I don't think necessarily he is a definite starter unless we play three at the back. But this is why it becomes important, because sometimes David Moyes does want to play three at the back. It means he wants a wing back. We know what he likes to do. Arthur at left wing back, Cresswell in at left centre back. And I think it's often easy to sort of not mock Masuaku, but think he's not as big a cog in the wheel as he actually is. I think David Moyes thinks that Masuaku was good enough that he didn't go and chase another left-sided defensive player, be that a wing-back or a full-back in this window. I think ideally he'd like to bring one in. I think if one became available at the right price, he'd do it. But he looks at that and he thinks actually that's enough. And Masuaku is a really useful player to have on our bench because it allows us to switch formation. I feel sometimes when we switch to three at the back and then Ben Johnson goes to left wing back. Now I do think Ben Johnson's a good player, but not as a left wing back. I think we lose something. I think very much when we go to that three at the back, we're retreating and we're saying, right, we're going to shut up shop now. I think if you do that and you have Masuaku at left wing back, then you still retain the ability to carry the ball up the pitch and therefore counter-attack, which I think is really, really important. So I do welcome Arthur back. And I think, well, not personally, I've not phoned him up and said, welcome back, Arthur. But I do think that Moyes will be absolutely delighted it will come back. And I do expect him to feature quite a lot, actually, particularly bearing in mind we've got the European campaign, which is about to start next Thursday, which is really exciting, isn't it? I'm really looking forward to that, actually. So, yeah, I think that's really, really good news. I'm going to go to a couple of articles now which are really pertaining to Declan Rice, and it sort of annoyed me a little bit. So, excuse me, it can't all be fun and games. Dave's flat and Sean Connery, can it? You know, sometimes you look at things at the West Ham news and it just irritates you, and this has irritated me actually. The stories in the One Football app, of course, which is downloadable by clicking the link below. You get all the West Ham news aggregated together, and it gives it all to you, and that's why it's annoyed me. My phone pinged. It was One Football app. I thought, hold on, that's annoyed me. It's not the One Football app's fault. It's Declan Rice's or Man United or whatever. It's someone else's fault, not the app. The app's very good, and so when you join up, it just asks you which team you follow. You click West Ham, and it puts all the news together for you. Very good on match days, particularly in the build up to the game, but not as good as being on Hammer's Chat in the build up to the game, of course. It's free. And it's in the link down below. Okay, this story, let's just, actually, who am I kidding? There's no way I'm reading that without my glasses. Declan Rice to Man U. Declan Rice, Man U are getting far and far more cocky in, and this is what's annoyed me, in their, I think, in their approach for Declan Rice, but they're more cocky and carrying a certainty that they're going to make the deal happen. You hear the leaks, they're almost talking like he's their player next season, definitely. And it really annoys me, actually. It really, really annoys me. I've not got the natural inbuilt hatred for Man United that I know some fans have. I thought what Fergie did there was very, very highly impressive. It was quite annoying that they would get a lot of decisions go in their favour. I hated that sort of thing, but I think when Fergie was there, it was really up to everybody else to get up to his level and to get up to Man United's level to actually contest them. And I don't think Wenger did it for a little bit, and then Abramovich came in, which made Chelsea go up there and challenge. But by and large, he had Man United the best team around for about 15, 20 years. Let's be fair. I don't really like the way they conduct themselves now, though, and I particularly don't I'm not overly keen on Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. And not just because I think he's an average manager, which I do. I look at that and I think, how's he been afforded the time how's he been afforded more time than David Moyes, Van Gaal and Mourinho? It seems like he's very streaky. He's a patchy manager, basically. He'll go for streaks of winning games, then he'll lose a few. And I just think at those top clubs, you don't get to do that. You can't have that within your repertoire, because that little streak where you do lose games is going to lose you the title. And Man United won't contest the title this season. By all means, clip that and stick it up at the end of the season if it's wrong. But I don't think I will be wrong on that. Ronaldo's going to obviously have a massive part to play, but you know we'll just have to see how that one plays out. But I don't think we're looking at an outstanding manager. But the first time that Solskjaer really sort of annoyed me, you might remember, was during lockdown, and he turned around and he pretty much said that lockdown and the pandemic was going to have a massive impact on clubs, and because it's going to have a massive impact on clubs, there'd be bargains to be had because clubs would be struggling. So it was up to Man United to identify those cheaper players. Basically, it was the words of a shark circling a wounded seal. Put it that way. I don't know why I put it that way. I don't even know why that came to mind particularly. But I thought, well, hold on a second, mate. You're meant to be. Gary Neville often goes on about the big clubs. He talks about Liverpool, he talks about Arsenal, he talks about Manchester United, how they carry themselves in an ambassadorial role, how they're dignified, how they're diplomatic. And I thought, actually, carry on, mate. You know, don't pipe down a little bit there, because if people are struggling, you don't really want to be putting it out there you're going to take advantage of them. It may well be the case that you do, but I thought it was a time for football to help each other out. And I just think they're a little bit cocky in the way that they announce things. It's quite funny because you often hear Solskjaer will say, oh, I won't talk about somebody else's player. Then he goes and talks about somebody else's player. And then Manchester United will leak loads about somebody else's player. So clearly, at the moment, Man United, I think, are looking at West Ham as the wounded seal. And they think they're the shark. And I just think we've got to make it as awkward as possible for them, really, because I'm not particularly happy with them thinking that they can, that they can do what they want to West Ham, if you like. Now, as I understand it, the Chelsea might be looking to bid for Bellingham from Borussia Dortmund. Great player, excellent player, and I don't blame them for doing that. You'd think give Bellingham another season. I believe they signed Bellingham for between 20 and 25 million from Birmingham. By the time he's finished, give him another season, they're going to be trying to flog him on for 90 to 100 million. And that's, that's going to be a good signing for Chelsea. But so it looks like Man United think they've got a clear run at Declan Rice. I don't want anyone to sign Declan Rice, by the way, but with that in mind, if someone is, I was quite buoyed to hear that Liverpool might also be interested, because I don't want Man United to think they've got a clear run at him. Also, this puts into perspective the story of a week or so ago when it was suggested that Declan Rice might be willing to sign a deal, but only if there's a release clause in it. Well, if he's going in the summer, there's no point. We might as well just save ourselves the 5-6 million or whatever, might be 8-9 million, I don't know, however much he'd be the top earner. We might as well save ourselves between 5 and 10 million and not give him the new contract. He won't miss out on that money. It's then up to him and his agents to turn round to Manchester United and say, excuse me, Man U, our client missed out on that money because you kept on leaking the story that he was going to sign you. So basically the board wouldn't extend his contract and put the release clause in there. So I think that's it. And also, I think if they desperately want him, and pretty much bearing in mind they've announced they're going to have him, then we should basically ask for whatever money that we deem appropriate for Declan Rice and whatever we want. And that's only fair. I think it's also, you're going to be looking, I don't want to get too much into this, but somebody mentioned the other day about inflation. And it is, as I say, you're going to fall asleep now, but it is quite important. There's a lot of countries just printing money at the moment. America more than anyone else. And what's America got to do with Declan Rice going from West Ham to Man United? Well, possibly not an awful lot, but it will obviously have some impact on the global economy. So inflation's going to go through the roof. And I'll tell you now, it might well be that 100 million won't quite do it, because everyone's going to put their prices up. And I'm talking about global inflation, not just football inflation. So, sorry, are you still there, or have you fallen asleep? You're asleep. There you go. If you're struggling to doze off tonight, just start playing this video. Put a phone next to your pillow, and you'll be asleep in no time. I think it's time for us to play hardball with Man United. I really do on this because I don't. It's listen to the quotes. West Ham, I'm sorry, Man United implement the potential framework to sign Declan Rice. I mean, they've got it all sussed out as far as they're concerned. Where was the other one? Excuse me. Just click on the other article. Manchester United leads race for Declan Rice. Manchester United certain of signing Declan Rice. Okay, right, fine. But let's not roll over and, as I often say, have our tummy tickled. Or Man United come along and say, there you go, nice West Ham, we'll take your player, thank you very much. No, it's time for us to start sticking up for ourselves, really. And I'm quite sure that David Moyes won't let this happen easily. And actually, I know that David Sullivan has taken a step away and he's leaving the negotiations to Rob Newman in terms of recruiting players. But that's what Rob Newman is. He's the recruitment director. He's not the sales director. I would still expect David Sullivan to deal in sales. And if he does, he needs to... I know we don't particularly like the man, but he needs to take a leaf out of Daniel Levy's book and have a little bit of Daniel Levy about him. And actually... very much say you want Declan Rice, it's going to be this much. And it may well be 110 million or whatever it is. Is Declan Rice worth 110 million? Well, possibly not, but 110 million in a year's time might well be worth 80. It might be 80 million now, if you know what I mean. Just pretty annoyed by it already. But then the more I looked at it, I thought there's just no need for a deal. Don't sign a new deal. I think I'd love Declan to sign a new deal without a release clause. I'd love us to prove to him that we're going places, but I don't think we can do much more. I really don't. The story, the narrative at the start of the window was very much Declan doesn't want to sign West Ham, West Ham aren't signing players and have no ambition, but we signed some players. Did we spend 200 million? No, but we never are. Unless we get a billionaire owner, that's never going to happen. So whatever we spent, 50, 60 million, and that's to build on a good team, and we got some good players, and we're in Europe. It's basically as good as it gets at West Ham. And if that ain't good enough for Declan Rice to want to stay around, then we can only do so much to keep him. I'd love him to commit to David Moyes' project and say, you know what, I'll give it another couple of years and I'll sign a 4-year deal and I'll leave in 2 years. I'd love that, but it ain't going to happen. I just think if he's going to leave next summer, then it's all very well Man United making the framework to facilitate that transfer, but we've got to make sure that we're making the framework as well. And it's also worth pointing out that it's Man United who want our player. So it's really important that on that we dictate the terms. Because they're the ones that want this happen. They're more desperate for Declan Rice to go to them than we are for Declan Rice to go to Man United, if you know what I mean. So I think it's just a little bit of time to play hardball in all of this, really. Declan's such a good professional, I don't think it'll impact his performances at all. But at least, if he does have a little dip or something else happens, we've got a midfielder there who can step in. Is Alex Krall as good as Declan Rice? No. But just go back to yesterday's video about Fornals. I am confident in the camaraderie of the club. I am confident that we are better than the sum of our parts. In complete contrast to a club... Contrast? I don't know why I turned northern then. In complete contrast to a club like Arsenal, for example, who are not as good as the sum of their parts. You know, you look at players like Aubameyang, for example. You look at players like Pepe and Tierney and all these wonderful, wonderful players that they got. Individually, they look superb. Collectively, they're weaker. They're weaker. And I just think because we've got a team framework, we can actually afford a little dip in form from a player because all the other ones will pull together because there's such a wonderful team spirit. I'm not suggesting, by the way, for a moment that Declan Rice is hindering team spirit. Far from it. I think Declan Rice is a massive part of it. I think he's a bubbly, funny, good character. I really do, and I think he's probably really well liked and really well appreciated in that dressing room. This is not about Declan Rice, it's about Man United, about the fact of being realistic that he is going to leave us. I think we have to be realistic about that. Well, you don't have to. You can pretend that he's going to stay with us until he's 35, and then you'll just be really disappointed when he leaves. But if you're realistic, he's not going to stay with us forever. And I think if that's going to happen, we've got to make sure that at the end of it, it's not us that are getting tucked up. Right, anyway, that's it. I'll see you game tomorrow. Match day tomorrow, not today. Don't get too excited today. Match day tomorrow. Looking forward to that actually. So I will lots of videos all across Hammers Chat tomorrow. Many videos. I'll see you then.